If you think you saw something, no, you didn't. That's the first rule they teach you in these woods, especially as a forest ranger. It's not some quirky saying, it's the rule. You learn fast that the things you think you see are better left buried deep in the back of your mind. Because when you start asking questions about those things, bad things happen, real bad. I've been a ranger for almost 5 years now, and I'd like to say that I have a handle on things. The forest is peaceful, a place to lose yourself, to think. Sure, there's the occasional weird noise in the distance, the rustling of leaves in the dead of night when there's no wind, the flicker of movement out of the corner of your eye. But that's just nature, right? Well, 2 weeks into my job, I found out firsthand why we have that rule. I was doing my regular rounds, checking the perimeter, making sure the trail markers were still intact, and that the cabins were locked up tight. The usual stuff. There's a trail about 5 miles into the woods that people like to hike, a perfect place for a little solitude and quite picturesque. It's calm out there, quiet. You don't expect anything to happen in a place like that. But that day, something felt off. The trees felt taller, the air heavier. It was a late afternoon, and while the sun should have been setting soon, it felt like it was setting faster than usual. I shook it off, focused on the job. As I was picking up an empty bag of chips from the trail, the wind picked up, making the trees sway and creak. But then, something caught my eye. Just off the path, I saw movement. A figure. It wasn't a person, but it also didn't look like any animal I've seen. A silhouette, shifting behind the trees, far enough that I couldn't make out details, but close enough that I knew it was there. My heart skipped a beat, but I forced myself to think it was just some lost hiker, maybe an animal moving in the underbrush. I called out, but the forest swallowed my voice, the wind carrying it away. I stepped off the path and approached the area where I thought I'd seen it, but when I reached the spot, there was nothing. Just woods, silent and empty. I searched for a few seconds, but found no footprints, no signs of anyone or anything being there just a few moments ago. I started walking back toward the trail, and then I heard it. Footsteps behind me, light, as if someone was following just a few paces behind. My pulse quickened. I turned to see who or what it was. Nothing. I'm not an idiot. I knew better than to ignore it, so I quickened my pace. I tried to convince myself it was the wind, a trick of the mind, but the footsteps didn't stop. They stayed right there, shadowing mine, perfectly in sync, and then it stopped. The sudden silence, minus the crunch of my boots on the trail, made the whole situation even more terrifying. I paused for a moment, too scared of what may happen if I turned around now. So many choices ran through my head until I decided on one. Well, I wouldn't say I decided, more like my body chose for me. A surge of adrenaline pushed me to start speed walking back to the ranger station. Something in me screaming that if I started running, I'd be dead. My heart pounded as if I was in a marathon. With each stride, goosebumps formed. The crisp wind moving my hair to my face and carried the scent of vanilla through the air. The smell reminding me that any animal could find where I am, especially the thing following. I reached the station and locked the door. After a few minutes of nothing, I sat behind the desk, chuckling at myself for getting all worked up, and for believing the other rangers' stories. A couple of them even went as far as to claim they saw stuff. At first I thought they were just trying to mess with the new guy and get him all scared before the first watch. In that moment of giggling at their stories, I realized one of them is lining up exactly like what happened outside. The following footsteps, the